All right, what is going on, everybody? Let me make sure the mic's all good. We'll go live here. Man, I really hate that we can't go live on TikTok right now. The thing about the going live on TikTok, I'll go ahead and explain this to you guys, but the reason I can't really go live on TikTok is because if I want to multi-stream, the problem is TikTok requires you to do gaming content if you're going to multi-stream, which is really strange. But it is what it is. Got to kind of deal with it like the way we got to deal with it. So, down the road, probably sometime this year, I will be getting some other kind of like either a new phone or whatever the case may be, and I'm literally gonna have it up on another section. So we're gonna be going live on more platforms down the road. But I know there's a lot of people who are probably following me on Instagram and TikTok and being like, what happened? We used to go live on TikTok all the time. That's what that's what happened. They kept blocking me. But anyways, let's get into what we're talking about today. So I wanted to bring this up. This is actually something that kind of crossed my mind while I was doing my whole morning cardio routine. If you guys don't know, something I just kind of started was getting back up at 4 a.m. It's something I used to do back in the day. That I kind of brought back. I wasn't going to start doing this, and it's not something that's really going to be super prevalent what we talk about today. But it's something I noticed that helps me stay on track with what I need to get done for each day. So I'm back on track with that. Was working on my water intake this morning, trying to get some water in me, and I just started kind of using this analogy because I see a lot of people out there like people know you got to drink a lot of water, right? I think a lot of people out there don't quite understand two things: just how much water you need to drink and why you need to drink that much water, like why that's super big for making sure you live a very long, healthy life. And so that's what we're going to be covering today. But also, we're going to talk about how to reduce your resting heart rate. This is going to be mainly a live stream about your heart health at the end of the day. And it's the number one thing that tends to be a killer when we're talking about obesity related disease. So it's something we definitely need to bring into the mix. And again, guys, this is stuff that's going to affect you whether or not you are technically obese. If you have bad heart health, these things are still going to help with this. All right. So starting off, I named this live stream, as you guys probably saw, we named this live stream, your heart is like a car engine. And I say that so you guys can understand that this is exactly how it works. So, kind of like how a car engine only has a certain amount of miles on it, the human heart can only take so many miles, right? There are variations in this, just like there's variations in different brands and different types of car engines. But at the end of the day, the human heart can only deal with so many beats in its lifetime. And so, knowing that information, this is why we have to make sure your heart health is critical, because it's not like having good heart health for a day is what matters. It matters how good your heart's going for long periods of time. We're talking 10, 15, 20, 30 years, like your entire life, right? And if for the past, like, let's say you're 40 years old, if the past like 30 years of your life or so have not been, or let's at that point, if you're still doing it, it's been your whole life. But the past 40 years of your life or so, have you been dehydrated, not focusing on your heart health, not going to the gym, not doing workouts? Like, that's a lot of stress on the heart. This is why people in their 40s and 50s have heart attacks, guys, whether or not you are obese. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, you don't have to be obese to be dehydrated, and being dehydrated is going to affect your heart this way. You don't have to be obese to have bad cardio, because if you just don't do if you're very sedentary and work a desk job, it's still going to be this way. Okay, so let's not get confused. Like, obesity related disease falls into heart health. It falls into a lot of different categories, honestly. But you guys need to understand here that this is not exclusive to obese people. This is something that affects everybody. So we got to make sure you guys understand this. And so what do we do with car engines to try and make them last longer? One of the main things we do is we replace the oil in that car, right? This is why it's so freaking important to drink so much water, guys. This is the exact reason, okay? And it all comes down to the fact that, like, it actually is very similar. Like, even if you're looking at it this way, there are going to be people who don't understand kind of how cars work. And I'm no mechanic or anything. I don't even really understand how cars work at all. I'm not a car guy, right? But I know how oil works. I know that if the oil is dark and thick, it's probably not good to be going through your car engine, right? That's how being dehydrated is. And so a lot of you guys don't realize this, but the more dehydrated you are, the more thick your blood is. This is what we call high blood pressure. And you just have a high blood density. And it comes down to the fact that, like, when you're dehydrated, it's no different, because you got to think about what your blood is, guys. Most of it is water. And the reason most of it is water is because it's got to carry a lot of these nutrients, this blood cells, platelets. It's got to carry all these things inside that water. Plasma is mainly what the water component is. But there's all these different things that are inside that blood. It's kind of like fruit juice in this sense, right? Well, the reason I say fruit juice is because fruit juice is a lot of water, but it's not just water. There's stuff in that as well, right? So what happens when we dehydrate fruit juice? What happens when we put fruit juice on a stove and start cooking it up? That fruit juice starts turning into syrup. It becomes thick. It starts looking like bad oil, right? That's what's going through your body when you're dehydrated. Compared to when you're really hydrated, it's like before you ever took that water away. It's very liquidy. It's very fluid. Now, and that's the same thing as having new oil in your engine. It's very fluid. It has a lot of fluidity. It's not very thick, right? It's clean. That's the difference here. And that's why your heart's like an engine. So I want you guys to imagine, like, let's say that you guys, you're supposed to get your oil changed every, 4 to 6 months, right? Depends on how much you're driving. Some people do it every 3 months if you drive a lot. Let's say you go 2 years without changing your oil. How's that oil going to look when you take it out? A lot of you guys have been doing this and living this way, being dehydrated, not focusing on your heart health for years. We're not talking 2 years. We're talking 30, 40, 50, 60 years, guys. You see what I'm saying? Do you see why this is an issue? So what I'm trying to get you guys to understand is that it's not the reason you have to drink so much freaking water. And guys, my people know it's half your weight in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, that's at least 100 ounces a day, right? If you're 250, at least a gallon. Like, that's the kind of things a lot of people aren't understanding. And yeah, that's a lot of water. Like, the problem with this is, like, when I get on phone calls with people, I'll ask the question, like, hey, how much water do you drink a day? And they go, oh, I drink a lot of water. I drink nothing but water. And I'll be like, okay, I didn't say that. I'll say, how much water do you drink a day? And they'll go, oh, maybe like 4 bottles. And they're like 200 pounds. They need to be drinking more like 6 to 8 bottles, right? So, like, the perception of just how much you need to drink is off for a lot of people to help make sure that you're, like, helping your heart last you way longer than most people get, right? This is how we avoid these heart attacks at 50 years old, guys, is this. This is what happens, right? But a lot of people aren't understanding this, and this is why we tend to have, like, a lot of people who are on medications for this kind of thing. Not to say that some people don't need to be on medications, because there are certain cases where, yeah, that you're going to have to do that. But a vast majority of cases is you just need to drink more fucking water and you need to get inside a gym, which most people are not doing. Let me look this up, because I don't even know what the statistics are on this, but I would love to know. What percent, because I'm sure we have data on this, what percentage of the U.S. population goes to the gym? 28% of the U.S. population goes to the gym. Okay, let's just assume that there's an extra like 5% of people who work out from home. It doesn't matter. You're never going to have enough equipment to help take care of your body optimally. That gyms are absolutely necessary in certain cases. That, like, and even if you're working out completely at home, what is that? An extra 5% of people? Like, that's still like a third of the U.S. population. That is not most people, guys. Most people are not doing this. Most people aren't touching this, and they're out there going, why don't I feel good? What? Do I have to spell it out for you? It's very clear why you don't feel good. You don't take care of your body. Guys, that's a problem. You rely on medication to deal with symptoms, to deal with problems, instead of preventing problems with your health, with your fitness, with your diet. All of these are huge, huge things. This is what's going to be the limiting factor from between people literally making it or not, right? Literally surviving or not. So you guys need to understand. So when we talk about heart health, I want to move on to the next thing because there's a few different things I want to cover. You need to understand the most critical thing is hydration. This is the first thing I hammer down on with my people for a reason. One, it's the most immediate way you guys can lose a couple pounds, right? Because another thing a lot of people don't understand is that like when you're really dehydrated like that, your body tends to hold on to more water because it doesn't know when you're going to give it more water, dude. So it's going to hold on to as much as it can. And so it's kind of like a cactus, right? It's a cactus in a desert. It's holding on to water because it doesn't know when it's going to get more water, right? But if you are consistently, habitually giving your body a lot of water, like I said, at least half your weight in ounces, if you want optimization to really get that resting heart rate down so you can really like get the full effect of your heart, like get a heart that's going to last you 100 plus years, like the thing you're going to have to make sure you do is to optimize that. At the very least is half your weight in ounces. And for some people who are really active, like I'll drink even more than that. Now, you don't want to go past like, you don't want to do your weight in ounces. That's too much. But that being said, somewhere in between that line, especially if you're making sure you're getting plenty of electrolytes, yes, you're going to be pissing like crazy. Your pee is going to be more than clear. It's going to be water. But you got to understand the reason you're doing that is not just the pee clear, guys, because a lot of you guys think that's the line. That is not the line. Like peeing clear is a good sign, right? We also need to make sure you're also getting plenty of electrolytes with this, guys, because like when you start peeing clear, it's a sign that we definitely need to make sure like, for one, it's going to happen. It's not like it's a bad thing, but you also want to make sure that you're not under getting electrolytes. So like I have all my clients taking magnesium, for example. I tell them not to avoid salt. I definitely don't tell them to just overdo it. But if you're getting a lot of water intake, I definitely tell them like, hey, make sure you're adding salt in, especially like iodized salt, or even I like to do the trace mineral salts on my foods. Because then you get even more electrolytes from that. Also high dairy, so you can also like when you're doing stuff like protein shakes and stuff like that, you're getting electrolytes in as well. So like just make sure you're getting your electrolytes in. But like as long as you're getting your electrolytes in, the biggest thing you can do that's going to be great for your heart, electrolytes first, one, definitely that magnesium. The magnesium's huge for that heart. But on top of that, we want to make sure that we're drinking more than enough water so that our heart works at a super, super efficient rate. Now, it's not going to do that alone with water, but water just makes it to where your blood pressure is at as low as it needs to get so that we can make sure that like your heart's not having to work super freaking hard, right? So that's something to kind of keep in mind. Now, that being said, if you're having the opposite problem, there are people out there that do have this problem when you're having like low blood pressure instead of high blood pressure, then what we need to do is maybe back off a little bit on the water or increase your electrolytes and stuff like that. And that'll help densify your blood. And that's a way you can kind of go about that. And this is going to be, again, this is why we call my stuff personal training, is because it's personal, okay? It's going to be different for each person depending on what you're dealing with. But a high majority of people in the United States deal with high blood pressure and bad heart health. So this is how we make sure we're fixing that. Now, moving on to the next thing, because I don't want to just stick on water. There are a few other things we can talk about here. But when we're talking about other ways we can help with that heart health, obviously doing cardiovascular exercise is good, right? That's not something I'm going to spend a lot of time on. Just understand that the more you do, the lower that resting heart rate's going to be. So, and it doesn't have to be, like, guys, understand cardio is not intense. Cardio is very lazy. It's just movement. It's walking. It's jogging. It's not sprinting, okay? Sprinting is not cardio. Sprinting is a form of strength training. A lot of you guys don't know this, but like it's very evident when you look. Like you guys can go pull up pictures right now on Google and look up the comparison in a marathon runner's leg compared to a sprinter's leg, like Usain Bolt. Very vastly different looking legs. And that's because when you're sprinting, you're going all out. When you're doing running or marathon running or cross country running or jogging or like distance or longer cardio where you're going for 15 to 30 minutes at a time, not 15 to 30 seconds at a time, right? That's going to induce a different kind of mechanic. And that's where the cardiovascular comes into play. It's not that you don't get cardiovascular health from those other exercises. You definitely do. You get cardiovascular health from strength training. Strength training is part of how we work on that heart health, by the way, too. More muscle equals more efficient fuel use. So like that's another part of the process you can't ignore either. It's not just making sure you do a lot of cardio. It's also strength training is definitely in that mix. But I also like to make sure that we're doing stuff like cardiovascular conditioning. So learning how to stress your heart and train it, right? So this is where we do things a little bit differently. This is cardio. this is kind of like a mixture of like sprinting and jogging, right? This is where with a lot of my clients, I induce this with HIIT training, cardio acceleration. I do a lot of sprint drills, plyometric drills. I'll do supersets with plyometrics with a very certain specific timed rest. So I'll do like a 30-second rest so I can get that HIIT effect. So like there's different ways we can go about doing this. That's not just running. That's just one style, right? So I do think conditioning is a whole different field. It's kind of like cardio mixed. It's HIIT training. HIIT training, I say that's only one variation of how you can do conditioning. Like another thing you can do, for example, is sauna therapy is a way you can condition the heart. And this is very well researched, guys. People who use the sauna, especially this has been researched a lot more in elderly people, but people who use the sauna tend to I can't remember what the decrease in mortality rate is, but it's insane. And it has to do with, it just allows your your heart health to go up. It has to do with the fact that you can literally sit there, and because you're in that heat, it's the same thing as like, guys, what happens is your blood becomes more fluid regardless of how hydrated you are because of the heat. And so it just makes it easier for your body to not have to do anything to make that happen. For example, we are warm-blooded creatures. What happens is with a lot of cold-blooded creatures, and you can see this, like this is something you can see in the wild happening. You can actually start probably seeing it right now if you guys start seeing bugs. I remember the first time I ever saw it with a wasp. And I think it was in November, I saw a wasp nest, but it was like, there were so many of them, but they were moving so slow because their blood's cold. And so what that means is that their blood's moving slower, so the energy and oxygen that's going across their body is going at a much slower rate. And so with us, we're warm-blooded. But what happens when you put which means we produce our own heat, so we don't have to deal with that kind of problem. But what happens when you put a warm-blooded creature in a hot environment? Okay, some of you aren't ready for that kind of heat. Like, it's always like that first day in summer. You guys are like, oh my God, it's so freaking hot. You're sweating everywhere. And then eventually you kind of get used to it, right? That's conditioning. That's what I'm talking about. Part of that's heart health. Part of that's your body getting used to this kind of stuff. But let me look up the statistics on this. Sauna and mortality. Mortality rate, by the way, guys, is cause of death. Like your likelihood to die. But men who use saunas 4 to 7 times a week had a 40% lower risk of all-cause death. So we're not even talking just about heart health. It's everything. It's literally every single thing. And this has to do with stressing your body to get used to dealing with symptoms. A big thing that causes death is heart health. Sauna helps deal with that. And whenever you guys do get, let's say it's an illness, you get a fever, that's what ends up killing a lot of people whenever they're older. This helps train your body to deal with heat, just like when you have a fever. And so you're conditioning your body to deal with this. And this is why you have a 40% lower risk of all-cause death. All-cause death, 40% lower risk. Okay, you can't ignore that. Like, that's such a huge thing. For you guys who are worried about like disease, heart disease, illness, that kind of stuff, the sauna needs to be a prime thing you're doing. It needs to be huge. This is a big reason why I go to HotWorks, guys. Like, the reason I go to HotWorks is because you can do workouts in there in a sauna. Like, I'll go in there and I'll do like a 45-minute or an hour worth of foam rolling, yoga. They got rowing machine classes and bikes you can go in there and do for 15 minutes at a time and get that sauna benefit while you're working out. And it's such a really easy way to get a good sweat on really quickly. And so again, the reason I personally do that is for all these health benefits too. This is why I personally, guys, I have a resting heart rate of like in between 50 to 60 resting heart rate, and I'm 225. Okay, like that is elite level like heart rate. Elite level would be like 40 to 50, which is really crazy. But I'll probably get there. I've gotten there before. Whenever I got down below 200 from an MMA fight, it was around that point, and I knew that because I wore one of those Apple Watches that track that stuff. But that's not even me finishing with this. As far as the sauna goes, and it says we have a 40% lower risk of all-cause death and a 63% lower risk of sudden cardiac death, which would be a heart attack, compared to those who've only used the sauna once a week. Now, keep that in mind. That's not compared to people who don't use the sauna at all. That's compared to people who use the sauna 4 times a week compared to once a week. Okay? Imagine how that's compared to people who don't use the sauna at all. I'm sure those numbers are a lot freaking higher, guys. It's insane. So this is what I mean. These are different things we have to keep in mind. We need to work on, obviously, hydration and electrolyte use, right? When I talk about hydration, understand, guys, that does not just mean water intake. It also means electrolytes. So make sure you guys understand that. That's why that's why I don't say the word water intake. I say hydration. Okay? Understand that. Another thing is big is making sure that we're doing strength training and cardiovascular work along with conditioning. Conditioning is the big thing a lot of people aren't doing. A lot of people are doing cardio work. A lot of people are not drinking enough water, but some people are. But I guarantee you a very small portion of you are doing like conditioning for the heart. That's going to be sauna therapy. Even ice therapy, like cold baths and cold showers, actually are included in that. You just can't, you got to be careful. You got to slow your roll. Don't jump into like a really cold thing right off the bat. Make sure you guys ease your way into that because it will lock you the fuck up. It'll make you just freeze, literally, because you're in cold water. So just kind of keep that in mind, but make sure we're applying all this stuff. Another last thing I want to note on, another big contributing factors, guys, I'm probably going to do a whole live stream on this later this week anyways, but we got to talk about the sleep epidemic. There's so many people out there who are just not prioritizing sleep and you're wondering why you're struggling. A big part of this too, when we're talking about making sure that we're lowering that resting heart rate so that we can keep your engine, remember your heart is like a car engine, so we can keep your engine clean for a lifetime. A huge part of that too is sleep and stress, okay? Sleep even more. You can be stressed if you're getting enough sleep, okay? You can afford to be stressed if you're getting enough sleep. It's a little bit different if you're not. Okay, so we got to start prioritizing that kind of thing. I want to save that information for a different live stream because we're already rocking over 20 minutes and I need to get to the next thing. But that's probably what we're going to talk about on Thursday. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. Guys, make sure the biggest takeaway I need you guys to start kind of applying here is that water intake. Like, again, the cardio and conditioning and all that's very important. Don't get me wrong. But the most immediate thing you can do right fucking now is to make sure we're drinking more water. You can do that right fucking now. You can go into the kitchen right now, or you can go at work. I'm sure you got a water fountain. Whatever the case may be, go drink some more fucking water. I promise you, half your weight in ounces for the rest of your lifetime will get you very, very fucking far. Okay? That's all I got for you guys today. I'll talk to you guys next time. Peace out. Have a wonderful day.